Hello, and welcome to Curiosity Studio. My name is Heather, and I'm an artist, a storyteller, and a picture book enthusiast, and I'm here at Curiosity this month to talk about Mental Health Awareness Month. Last week, we talked about connecting to ourself and how important it is to know where your feelings are in your body and maybe the chair right underneath you, and how that affects you, being in the here and the now. So connecting to yourself, and then the next ring out that we're focusing on is our environment. Whether it's in your home or on your commute or at work or at school, the day-to-day environment you find yourself in can have an impact on your mental health, and how you encounter it and how you take note of it is actually really important for growth, connection, and a sense of peace of mind too. So as we're thinking today about our environment, notice where you are right now. What can you hear? And listen a little harder. Maybe there's a sound that you weren't noticing before that's just under that level of consciousness. Maybe it's the washing machine in the basement or a bird outside. And what do you see? Sometimes it's hard to look for things that we don't normally see, but as you're out in the world, connect to your world in that way and try to find little details, almost like little surprises and breadcrumbs that tell you about your environment and where you are. So, all of this being said, the book I chose this week is called The Sound of Silence. It's by Katrina Goldsaito and illustrated by Julia Kuo, and it's one of my favorites as far as connecting to your environment and just noticing those tiny details that make up your world. That has a large effect on us. So without further ado, The Sound of Silence. Little Yoshio wiggled with anticipation. 3, 2, 1. He threw open the front door. The sounds of the city swirled all around him. Tokyo was like a symphony hall. Yoshio listened to the sound of his boots squishing and squashing through the puddles and the tiny raindrops pattering on his umbrella. The sound of his giddy giggles made him giggle even more. Suddenly, Yoshio heard the strangest sound. It was high and then low, squeaky and vibrating, amazing. It was a koto player, carefully tuning her instrument. Then the koto player played. The notes were twangy and twinkling. They tickled Yoshio's ears. When the song finished, Yoshio said, "Sensei, I love sounds, but I've never heard a sound like that." The koto player laughed, and it sounded like the metal bells swaying in the wind in Mama's garden. "Sensei," Yoshio said, "do you have a favorite sound?" "The most beautiful sound in the world," the koto player said, "is the sound of Ma, of silence." "Silence?" Yoshio asked, but the koto player just smiled a mysterious smile and went back on playing. Yoshio bowed to the koto player and ran to school. Where can I find silence? Yoshio wondered as he listened to the thwack of his boots on the pavement. He listened for it through the school day. But there was always some kid making noise. At recess, the sun came out, and Yoshio went to the quietest place he knew, the bamboo grove at the edge of the playground. But even there, the bamboo made a taka-taka-taka sound as the wind banged its stalks together. He closed his eyes, and he heard the swish, swish, swish of the wind making the leaves talk. It was beautiful, but It wasn't silence. Walking home from school, Yoshio listened hard. He could hear the horns of buses and the whoosh of bullet trains and the beep, beep, beep of the traffic lights, but no silence. Yoshio knew so many different sounds, loud and soft, sudden and soothing. But silence? Where was silence? It wasn't in the dining room, where there was always the sound of chopsticks and slurping and chewing and swallowing. What a noisy family. And it wasn't in the bath, where even his toes made noise and little droplets of water kept dripping off his nose. Drip, drip, drip. That night, Yoshio tried to stay up late to catch the silence while his family slept. But his eyes got heavy, and then heavier, and soon the sound of a distant radio became a part of his dreams. The next morning, Yoshio woke up and his neighbor's dog was barking and oh no! He'd missed the silence. Yoshio walked to school early. His sisters whizzed by on their way to the park, screeching Yoshio's name. Where was silence? Yoshio heard the creak of the school gates as he pulled them open. No one was at school yet. He put on his inside shoes and listened as they shuffled on the shiny floor. The classroom felt different without anyone in it. He sat at his desk by the window and pulled out a book. He loved this story, and as he read, he forgot where he was. Suddenly, in the middle of a page, he heard it. No sounds of footsteps. No people chattering, no radios, no bamboo, no kotos being tuned. In that short moment, Yoshio couldn't even hear the sound of his own breath. Everything felt still inside him, peaceful, like the garden after it snowed. Like feather-stuffed futons drying in the sun. Silence had been there all along. It had been there, between the thumps of his boots when he ran, when the wind stopped for just a moment in the bamboo grove, at the end of his family's meal when everyone was happy and full, after the water finished draining from his bath, before the koto player's music began, and hovering in the air right after it ended. It was between and underneath every sound, and it had been there all along. Ma. Silence. And that is the end of the sound of silence, which I think is a wonderful example of how even in our everyday, sometimes there's things that go unnoticed, and so looking for those little invisible moments and things in between is a wonderful way to connect to our environment. So no matter where you find yourself this week, take a moment to really soak in where you are and listen for sounds of maybe the AC turning on and off, or maybe a distant car, or a bird, or the wind, or someone's voice down the block. There's all these little things that make up our environments, and sometimes they can have an impact on us for better or for worse. So take care and take a little notice. It'll be interesting to see what you find. So, on that note, have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week. Bye!